The episode was supposed to be a celebration. Tom Cruise, Hollywood's enduring action hero, was set to appear on The View to promote his upcoming blockbuster. The mood in the studio was electric as fans clapped and cheered. His signature smile, flashing confidence, dressed in a sleek navy suit that screamed star power. The panel welcomed him with open arms, or so it seemed at first. Joy Behar, always ready with a sharp wit and even sharper questions, opened the segment with a light jab. "You're still hanging off airplanes at 60?" she asked with a laugh. Tom grinned and replied, "Still flying, Joy." The audience laughed. But barely 10 minutes in, the friendly tone began to change. As the conversation turned toward deeper topics, his views on mental health, the Church of Scientology, and his influence in Hollywood, Joy's questions stopped sounding playful and began sounding pointed. Tom's smile thinned, and that's when the spark was struck. Asterisk, Joy. Reading from her cue card asked, "Do you think sometimes your personal beliefs have interfered with how people perceive your work?" Tom paused, tilting his head. "Are we talking about my career or my faith?" he asked, voice still even but firmer now. Joy, unfazed, responded, "They're kind of linked, don't you think? I mean, you've made headlines for both." Tom chuckled lightly, but there was tension behind it. "I don't think people are confused about what I do in front of the camera." That reply could have ended the thread, but Joy pressed on. "Well, let's talk about that infamous Matt Lauer moment. You slammed psychiatry. Do you still stand by that?" The room fell quiet. Tom leaned forward, his eyes sharper now. "Yes, I stand by it. I've done my research. I speak from experience." Joy raised an eyebrow. "You're not a doctor, though, are you?" That's when Tom's posture shifted. He folded his hands and said, "I'm someone who cares. And I'm not going to apologize for being passionate about helping people think differently." Asterisk, the energy in the studio flipped from entertainment to confrontation. The other co-hosts sensed the shift. Sunny Hostin and Sarah N. both glanced at each other, uncertain whether to step in or let it play out. Tom wasn't raising his voice, but the tension in his tone was undeniable. Joy responded, "Nobody's saying don't care, Tom, but there's a difference between passion and misinformation." Tom shot back instantly. "You're calling me misinformed because I challenge a system that medicates millions without asking why?" The audience gasped. Joy, not backing down, replied, "I'm saying when you're that famous, your words have power. And that comes with responsibility." Tom leaned closer. "So does yours, Joy. And maybe instead of mocking what you don't understand, you could ask why I speak the way I do." There was no applause, no laughter, just the intense silence of two public figures standing their ground in front of millions. Asterisk, you could practically hear the producers holding their breath. The segment was sliding further into chaos, yet no one dared to cut to commercial. Joy, now visibly irritated, said, "I'm not mocking, I'm challenging. That's what we do here." Tom nodded slowly, then challenged with respect. Tone was calm but commanding, the kind that didn't just ask for boundaries, it drew them in stone. Joy, refusing to retreat, responded, "This isn't a church pulpit. It's a talk show. Came here to promote a movie, not a movement." Tom looked directly into the camera, his face steely. "I came here to tell the truth about who I am, about what I believe, and about how I use my platform." That was. The moment a low murmur spread through the crowd. They weren't used to seeing this side of Cruise, measured, firm, but clearly done playing along. And Joy had no plans to offer him a softer landing. Asterisk Sarah N. was trying to ease the tension, interjected with a nervous laugh. "Maybe we can just pivot to the stunt you did on the Burj Khalifa," but Tom held up a hand politely. "No disrespect, Sarah," he said, "but I think we've touched something that matters, and I'm not going to run from it." Joy scoffed. "Well, it seems like you're about to run off set." Tom turned his head slowly, giving her a long, quiet stare. "Why would I stay where I'm not being heard?" he asked. Joy fired back. "You're being heard. You just don't like being questioned." The back and forth had now shifted into personal territory. Cruise, usually a master of charm and control, was visibly weighing whether to walk or stay. His foot bounced once beneath the table. He straightened his tie. Then, with a calm, deliberate voice, he said, "I came here too. Have a conversation, not a condemnation." And just like that, he began unhooking his mic. The camera tried to cut to a wide angle, perhaps to obscure the growing mess, but Tom was already standing. He placed the mic gently on the table. "Thank you to everyone who wanted to listen," he said, looking toward the audience. Joy gave a sarcastic smile. "Don't let the door hit you, Tom." That remark was the final match to gasoline. Tom turned slightly toward her and said, "You're better than that, or maybe you're not." And with that, he walked off stage. The audience was silent. The hosts were stunned. Whoopi, who hadn't been in the segment and was off that day, would later be asked what she would have done. Her reply, "I would have let him speak," then asked why it made him so mad to be questioned. But in that moment, no one knew what to say. Joy looked momentarily regretful, but only for a second. Then she said, "Well, that's live TV." Folks, the show cut to commercial. Within minutes. Social media ignited. Hashtag Tom vs Joy, hashtag Cruise Control, and hashtag Walk Off Wednesday trended worldwide. Fans debated fiercely. Some said Joy was out of line, turning a film promo into an ambush. Others insisted Tom's ego couldn't handle tough questions. Celebrities chimed in. Listers who'd worked with Cruise posted cryptic messages about respect and narrative control. Mental health advocates were split. Some praised Joy for protecting the truth. Others called her tone dismissive. Meanwhile, talk show hosts across networks dissected every moment, frame by frame. "Tom Cruise walked off not in rage, but in conviction," said one commentator. Another retorted, "He walked off because he couldn't take a challenge." The entire conversation stopped being about movies or faith and started being about what happens when two powerful voices refuse to bend. Tom's team released a brief statement the next day. Mr. Cruise appreciated the opportunity to appear on The View. He regrets the interview became confrontational, but stands by his beliefs and his choice to leave. Joy, addressing the moment on the next episode, said, "I have no regrets. I ask questions. I get answers or I get exits." The tension lingered even then. Some audience members wore shirts with "Free Tom" printed on them. Others held signs that read, "Joy was right." Ratings for the show spiked. Clips of the moment hit every digital platform, dissected by both the left and right, used to prove everything from media bias to celebrity fragility. But beyond the noise, something deeper was brewing. The moment exposed the brittle line between public persona and personal belief, and what happens when those lines are challenged on national TV. Tom Cruise didn't hide. Days later, he appeared at the London premiere of his film, smiling, waving, posing with fans. But when asked about The View, he said simply, "That chapter's closed." Joy, meanwhile, began to receive both flowers and hate mail. She stood firm. "If you can't handle a question, maybe don't book the chair," she said on air. The media tried to frame the incident as ego versus ego. But those who looked closer saw something more vulnerable. A man trying to defend his convictions without the safety net of applause. And a woman doing her job with more force than tact. Neither was entirely right. Neither entirely wrong. But both were exposed completely and publicly. And in that exposure, the show became something more than just a talk segment. It became a cultural moment. When people look back on that episode of The View, they won't remember the movie Tom was promoting. They won't remember the jokes or the applause lines. They'll remember the silence that fell when belief met. Resistance. The way Tom stood up, not to storm off, but to draw a line in the sand. The way Joy leaned into the discomfort instead of backing away. That wasn't just a television moment. It was a moment of human friction, of unscripted emotion. In a world that's usually prepped, polished, and rehearsed, Tom Cruise walked off that stage not as a defeated man, but as a defiant one. Joy Behar stayed behind, unbothered, perhaps a little bruised, but as fearless as ever. And we, the viewers, were left with a reminder that truth doesn't always fit neatly into commercial breaks. Sometimes it stands up, sets down the McCann, walks away.